GoLoud.
Welcome back to the Weekly Roast. How's it going, guys? How the hell are you? How are your hearts? And of course, how are your heads? Guys, what's going on? How are you doing? Okay, look, I know I often begin the episodes with thank yous, but I do just want to say genuinely and very sincerely, thank you so much to everybody who sent me a really decent and kind message over the last few days. I'm not crying, I've got indigestion. I was 3 years sober on Friday, and I got some, genuinely moving, beautiful messages from people. I'm trying to work my way through the replies, and I will come back to you. If you haven't heard from me yet, I will definitely reply this week at some point. So I just want to say thank you so much. It's not something I talk about very often, my sobriety, just in the book and the podcast and the various media interviews, but nevertheless, I do hugely appreciate it. So thank you so much. Now, I would also like to thank everybody who listens to this show on a weekly basis. There are very, very exciting happenings behind the scenes. You'll be filled in as soon as I'm allowed and given permission to fill you in. Of course, I am sitting here beside my effervescent, milk mad, relaxed bosom baby. Kieran, how are we? Guys, it's the roast of weird cousins today, okay? Now look, I got lots of different replies from people about this one. First things first, let's call a spade a spade. If you think that you don't have weird cousins, you are the weird cousins, okay? Because on every single family tree, there is at least one lopsided branch of loons hanging off the trunk with their weird and unconventional arses hanging out and shining a light of shame on the rest of the family. It's just a fact. There isn't a single family in the country of Ireland without at least one lunatic. Would you say that's fair to say?
I agree.
Good man. And I would also say, I'm not talking about the 1990s versions of lunatics either, you know? Remember back in the 90s where basically anybody displaying any sort of mental health issue was just considered a fruitcake, and an entire generation of people were written off as oddballs, maniacs, pariahs and freaks. You know, Mum, who's that woman shouting over there? Oh, that's just Auntie Brenda. She's your mad auntie. Every family has one. Don't worry about her. Mum, she's just spent 4 hours on the roof claiming to be Winnie Mandela and that she'd like to show us her ability to fly. Oh, that's classic Brenda, you know, she's just your mad aunt. Don't believe a word she says. She's a nutter. And by the way, she'll be down in the dumps for a few weeks after this little party piece, I'll tell you that much. Mum, I really think... I said don't mind her. It's just your mad Auntie Brenda. Now go upstairs and call your Uncle Nelson. No? Guys, looking at your cousins, let's be honest, is almost like looking at a documentary on chimpanzees. The similarities are uncanny, but there is a baseline genetic discrepancy that will forever set you apart. Cousins are a living embodiment of how you could have turned out if there was a different bounce of the genetic balls and dick. There you go, Kieran. Is that scientific enough for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the Weekly Roast. Great to be with you guys. Let's go.
Was about 13, 14 years old when I went to stay with my cousins in Canada, and I was staying with them for a few weeks, staying in a guest bedroom that had an ensuite, and went to look for more toilet roll in the cupboard under the sink, and found a load of my cousins' Playboy and various other porn magazines. So that was nice and weird. More so weird.
In defence of the cousin here, like, I don't think that's that bad. A bit of porn underneath the sink. At least he's hiding it. And, you know, back in the 90s, porn wasn't very common, you see. Before the internet, before the advent of LimeWire, Kazaa, and other torrenting search engines, you know, you had to go out and do this manually, forage for porn. We've discussed this before on the podcast. Back in the 90s, porn was more rare than an uncringeworthy reel from an Irish comedian about the clocks going back. Do you know what I mean? Guys, we get it. Like, it's a fucking race to the bottom, isn't it, with these reel merchants? Oh, Irish people when the clocks go. Irish people when the world. Do you know what I mean? Shoot me in the face with a rifle. Never go on the internet again, please, Mark. You're only going to despair. I don't think this guy looking at porn is that bad. Do you remember the first, like, did I ever tell you about my friend, actually? My friend. Did I ever tell you about my friend? We used to call him Micro Dick Megan. I mean, O'Sullivan. But did I ever tell you about my friends? When we were in, I think, second year. Second year was when, as boys, you know, we sort of started talking about pornography and sexual things in, of course, a very schoolyard way. And it was basically just competing with each other to act as if we knew more than we really did. Certainly that was the case for me anyway. I talk about it a lot in my book. But a friend of mine, right after our balls dropped, we all expected our balls to drop like the same week of school, by the way. I'd never heard of balls dropping before. Then all of a sudden it was like we came back after Halloween midterm and it was like, if your balls dropped, what is that exactly? Do you know what I mean? And I also expected the balls dropping to be like, you know, I expected it to be the Leaning Tower of Pisa collapsing. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, a friend of mine had porn, okay? And I'm not going to tell you his name, but Simon was his name. And we used to go to Simon's house to look at his porn because there wasn't lots of porn doing the rounds. It was very rare. He had gotten it from like a cousin who had gotten it from his brother who had been to Prague. It always came from Prague. And anyway, Simon was showing us the porn. It was great. It did the job, you know, breasts, vaginal stuff, all the rest. But then a few weeks later, we came back. We're like, any chance we go over and see the porn again? And he was like, I can't. Why not? My dad has stolen it from me.
Oh, God.
We're like, sorry, wait, so you got caught with the porn? He's like, no. My dad has just stolen it from me. We're like, what do you mean? And he was like, I'll show you. So then we went over to his gaff on this sort of expedition, like, you know, what's his name? Captain Oates. And we head off into his parents' bedroom and we find that his dad, to be fair, had robbed the porn and just in the bedside locker. And then he robbed it back. We all had a good go of it. And then a week later, he was like, Dad's robbed it again. So then for the whole of second year, him and his dad were just robbing this magazine of porn from each other. Like, and by the way, never discussed it. Never ever, like in the most Irish way possible. Never, and to this day have never spoken about it. But they sort of share this material. I feel like when your porn is referred to as material, you need to change your taste, my boy. If it's been referred to as material in a court of law, you've gone too far. Let's go.
Hey Mark, love the pod. A few years ago, my cousin came to my nephew's first birthday, which was obviously really low key, and he brought his girlfriend, who wasn't invited. We had no idea she was coming. They didn't speak to a single person the whole day. They sat out the back garden. She sat on his lap the entire time, rolling smokes.
Good luck to these people. And first things first, not talking to anybody and smoking cigarettes was basically my mental health plan for my 20s. Do you know what I mean? Wouldn't recommend it, by the way. Crossing the seas of early adulthood on a vessel made of Marlboro Lights and synthetically suppressed despair is not exactly the recipe for a safe passage. But now, back to these two gobshites. Sitting, this whole thing is just cringe. Like, sitting on the lap, smoking the cigarettes, ignoring the fact that they're in a christening. They probably think of themselves as sort of like a Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette pairing in True Romance, you know? Sitting out in the burbs, bored by the mundanity of, you know, everybody else, and just like constructing their own little miniature smoking area of Grogan's, you know, by way of the lap sitting. One iPod earphone each, listening to the Fontaines DC. But the early stuff, man, because I don't know, this new album's just shut up. Do you know what? It reeks of pick-me girl behaviour. You know the way people say she's a pick-me girl?
No.
According to the internet, a pick-me girl is a woman who obsessively desires male approval and validation, often at the expense of other women. Okay, I have no comments on that. However, do you know what I do have a theory? And I'm coining it. If it hasn't been done before, please attribute it to me because I'm coining this today. Is there such a thing as pick-us couples? Hear me out, okay? couples that really want to portray a sort of relaxed effervescence when it comes to their love life that somehow is apparently different to everybody else. Do you know what I mean? Pick me couples are they are couples who profess to not suffer from the same daily strains and stresses that come with sharing your life with somebody. Do you know what I mean? They act like those normal problems, like the issues that affect you and Katie, the issues that myself and Darren go through, all of the normal things that come with being in a relationship with somebody. They act like, oh no, we're actually just not really like that. You know, they put out this image of being so constantly chilled and nonchalant that like it doesn't even matter who brings out the bins or who pisses on the seat of the toilet. You know, it doesn't even. We never argue about that stuff. They're the sort of people who pretend they book their family holiday 2 days in advance. Do you know, like they're the same people who said they never studied in school, but then they go in and they be writing fucking furiously. You know, yeah, we actually only booked it the day before we flew. You know, it's all just so relaxed. They arrive late to a wedding, but they sort of bundle into the church giddy and laughing at each other. That is pick us couple behaviour. They say that they don't get each other Christmas presents, but then they clear, like, oh, what's that? Oh, yeah, Simon just got this for me. He sold loads of his porn. Do you know what I mean? Pick us couples. If you have any examples of those, please DM me at Mega Mark. On we go.
Hey Mark, yeah, so I have a nephew on my husband's side, not related to me, thank fuck. But anyways, he's in his 20s, or 23, 24, and he sent my 25-year-old daughter, which is his first cousin, a voice note of him having sex with someone else. And when I say having sex, I mean there was sex noises on that voice note. Now, if it was an accident, grand, then fucking delete it. But he didn't delete it. Anyways, families are fucking weirdos.
Families are weirdos, and your one is no exception. That is, as you might say, Kieran, dérangement levels of perversion. It wasn't an accident. Nobody sends a voice note because A, you have to hold down the button to send the voice note. So unless he has some sort of multi-dexterous todger wherein he's... yeah, he did it on purpose. There is some sort of weird... It's very weird. And I think as well, by the way, sex noises, in Irish culture, sex noises don't really exist. Sex noises are just us cursing in lower tones. Let's be honest. Oh, fuck. Did you stub your toe or are you making love to your wife, Greg? Do you know what I mean? Because they both sound like the same reaction. It's never, I don't think Irish, you know, you see in movies like Latinos and they're like, aye, aye, and all that sort of like, but aye, like, Mavis Beacon over here or Duolingo. I think you need to download the app again, Mark, if that's your Spanish impression. But like, yeah, he did it on purpose. He obviously had one of the, like, I guess it's exhibitionism, is it? Where he wanted somebody to hear him having sex.
Yeah, but his cousin.
Look, you never know. Well, you do know. You do know. He's a pervert. On we go.
So my cousin who comes over from North or South Carolina in America, I can't remember which one, she's the epitome of what we would see as trailer trash on American TV. She's massively overweight, wears really tight like vest tops and like a shirt tied around her waist and her denims. Her hair slicked back and it's not particularly clean. And as we're sitting on Leary Pier, you know, I'm bringing her down to see all the sights and stuff, she sits on the bench and she's like shouting at passers-by, hey y'all, you want to have a wash there now, sir? And it is, yeah, not good. So another thing she did was we were walking up to Bits and Pizzas to get something to eat. And we walked up Marine Road and there's loads of buses there. And there was a girl running for the bus and we were on the other side of the road, mind you. And she shouts, bitch, you ain't catching that.
Okay, well, we went from the deep south to South Bronx very quickly there, didn't we? Also, when you said your cousin was from the deep south, I was thinking maybe Cherrywood. Do you know what I mean? Ballybrack, like Loughlinstown. I don't think we'd actually get something from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Is that a good? Alabama. Who's from Alabama? Alabama, Georgia. Bless your heart. Is that a... No? Okay. Well, look, I actually, her wearing the wife beater, I feel sorry for her. I once wore a wife beater because I was getting deep into the sort of hip hop and I was like, if I'm wearing wife beaters, I'll be taken seriously. And the first thing somebody looked at me and they're like, you look like the South Dublin equivalent of Onslow from Keeping Up Appearances. Good stuff. Thanks for that. Somebody else said I look like Andy from Little Britain without the wheelchair. Little Britain's aged well. How is David Walliams getting away with it, by the way? What I don't understand about British society is they are so unbelievably selective over who they choose to cancel and not. They're such utter frauds. Though, you know, like, they will let some people get away with absolute murder and then others not. Anyway, back to the deep south. Asking peer passers-by if, would you like a wash? No. Thank you, I'm good. Why was she offering people to... That is like the boss level of American uncouthness. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, madness, unbelievable. Now, look, guys, before I finish this section and we get into some of the more sordid contributions, I would like to read out this one. The contributor herself lost a bit of confidence and wanted me to read it out rather than voice note it, which we don't usually do, but in this instance, I would like to make an exception. Kieran hasn't heard this one yet, so I would like to hear your thoughts, Kieran. Are you ready for it?
Hit me.
My cousin was a goth and hid in the attic for our granddad's funeral. For me, this sounds like the opening sentence to like Noel Fielding's autobiography. Do you know what I mean? My cousin, there's a goth in the attic at granddad's funeral. But also, I think this is really sweet. I actually think that this is... I find this to be very moving. Hiding in the attic because you're a goth and it's your granddad's funeral. It's the most wonderfully teenage thing I've ever heard. Because as a teenager, you want to take dramatic action in order to deal with your feelings, but there's a limited sort of template of options to choose from, you know what I mean? Because you don't have total autonomy, you're dependent on your family. So when your granddad dies, what do? You hide in the attic, you know what I mean? He is somebody who is caught up in the existentialism of probably wanting to mourn his granddad, but at the same time still needs his other cousins to respect his commitment to Slipknot and System of a Down. I also feel like maybe he doesn't want to be involved in the forced togetherness of funeral, you know, now because he's probably been shunned at every other family event. I love that goth. Guys, some of your cousins are complete and utter freaks. That's the reality. This section isn't quite as bad as the Willy Willy Bum Bum section. Don't worry, it's not as vulgar as normal. However, there are a couple of curveballs, so brace yourselves. As always, I just want to say to you, thank you so much for listening to the Weekly Roast. This is my favourite part of the week. I am so grateful to all of you for listening. If you're new to the show, please do me a rock solid and follow or subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It makes an enormous difference to the sort of never-endingly confusing stats and whatnot around the podcast. So if you could do me a huge favour and subscribe to the show, that would be really appreciated. Okay, guys, let's go.
Hi, Mark. Just wanted to get in touch about the roast of the cousins. So years and years ago, I had stayed over in my auntie's house and my mum and my auntie had kind of done a swap. So her son had gone to my house and I went to her house. So I was getting into bed, into my cousin's bed, and my auntie was there tucking me in or whatever. I reckon I was about 6 or 7. And I get into the bed and I was like, oh, Auntie Nora, what's all that on the wall? And she was like, oh, they're just little Johnny's snots. He likes to line them up.
No.
I was like, sorry? And she was like, no, don't you say anything to him. He'd get all embarrassed. And off she walked out the door, turned off the light, left me in the bed, inches away from little Johnny's smeared, hard, crusty snots all over the wall that I reckon were there for at least a year because it was about 2 foot long. Like he'd obviously lined them up.
Oh.
Absolute ming bag.
Oh. Is he like the third Johnny, would you say? You've heard of Johnny B. You've heard of Johnny Smacks. Here's little Johnny Snots. Do you know what I mean? That is de Roger Mon levels of, like, do you know what I mean? This whole thing, okay, the mother accepting it as if it's just a normal hobby needs to be completely outlawed. Like, oh, I believe Henry's gotten into the model airplanes. Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's loving it. Yeah, he's really gotten into it now. And I believe Stuart's gotten really into the spinning top. Has he? Yeah. Well, I suppose it's 1920. So, yeah, no, he has. What about yours, Catherine? Johnny, does he have any hobbies? Yes, he paints the wall with his snot in order to predict the future. Calls himself Nostradamus. Good stuff. Do you know what I mean? This is absolutely despicable, disgusting. I understand that in life, every man has his own version of the Sistine Chapel, okay? But this little miscreant has decided to make his the bedside locker. It's perverted. Stuff the locker with porn, bottle up your emotions like most of the other children. Do you know what I mean? This is... No. Where did he draw inspiration from as a matter of interest, you know? The time he got a cold. By the way you say he'd line them up, stop personifying the snots like they're some sort of little nose soldiers, do you know what I mean? Who are off to fight in the little mucus uprising. This is horrifying. Painting the walls with his own bodily fluids. Who does he think he is? Bobby Sands. How does Bobby Sands somehow get mentioned in every single podcast? Let's go, Bobby. Let's go.
Okay, so my cousin was adopted into our family aged 7, and called my uncle and aunt his mom and dad, referred to his siblings, like always, was the brother, and, in fact was one of my cousin's favourite brother, was very much seen as part of the family, called my granny, nan, etc. We're at our uncle's wedding as he's part of our family. And, he starts hitting on me. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, we're related, you're my cousin or whatever. And he starts going down this route of how we're not actually related. And, just hilarious, basically. But I was going to good laugh out of that one. So also, suffices to say, I stood my ground.
Okay. In terms of waiting in the long grass, this is like the biggest commitment to the bit I've ever heard in my life. He goes and gets adopted, assimilates himself with the new family, only for 8 years later to be like, listen, we're not actually blood related, by the way, you and I. Like a magician revealing his tricks. Do you know what I mean? This is, speaking of magicians, actually, what are your thoughts on magicians? Surely you're on the line that they're all spoofers.
No, they're all real, of course.
I remember, did I ever tell you about the time I was watching TV? It's stuck with me to forever. I remember watching TV with a member of an extended family member, right? And a TV show came on, and that magician, Dynamo, was on it. In this episode, it was like, I'm gonna. He's from Yorkshire, something, isn't he? He's from Leigh. I'm gonna move myself. No, terrible. It's like, but I'm gonna transport myself from one building to another. So you see him on top of the Shard or something in London, and then the camera pans over, and all of a sudden he's on top of a different building. And this person just turned to me and she's like, "Now, Mark, you're very cynical. Do you think that's fake?" I'm like, if it was real, okay. Do you honestly think if some geezer from Yorkshire has discovered the ability to teleport, surely he's going to get a bigger platform than Channel 5 plus 1 at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night? Do you know what I mean? If somebody can think about what's happening here. If a human being has manifested the ability to teleport themselves, surely there'd be a bigger Ferrari, there'd be a bigger fuss. Mate, can you imagine them down in the production office? Hey, we've got this bloke from Nazareth, can walk on water and is the second son of God. Has he been on Loose Women yet? Do you know what I mean? Celebrity Big Brother. Pontius Pilates. We've already got Pontius Pilates booked for a yoga class. This is just, no, of course it's not real. Magicians are up there with ghosts. If you're open, the thing for me is if you're open to believing in magic, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not entertaining. But if you're open to the idea, oh no, but that's actually very weird how he does that. Whenever you say you don't believe in magic, and people go, okay, but how do you, David Blaine, how when somebody puts the chew in the glass and he ate loads of nettles without getting stung, how did that work, Mark? I'm like, firstly, you clearly have had some sort of neurological hemorrhage and you need to rush yourself to the nearest fucking infirmary. Secondly, it's not on me. I don't need to prove to you how Blaine can eat his own balls or not fucking go. That's not on me. I am able to be entertained without believing in it. But also, if you believe in magic and if you think that's real, but then why not ghosts? Why not everybody? Why not fairies? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, this guy, you can't be shagging your cousins, mate. Like, that's just not on. And that's obviously me completely ignoring all of the complexities around adoption that I will never understand. Nevertheless, dans we go.
Recently met one of my cousins who'd just come back from the States at my aunt's funeral. And my husband thought he was a bit shifty, something odd about him. Never thought anything of it. He got home and he Googled him, and had absconded from the US because he's wanted by the FBI. So probably more unsavoury and unpleasant than weird. Thanks, bye.
Like, I just wonder, what was he doing at the funeral that made him look so shifty? Do you know what I mean? That was enough for your husband to go, I'm going to Google that guy. Like, was he wearing a fake moustache and glasses? Did he have a black and white jumper on? Was he going up to get the communion on his tippy toes? Do you know what I mean? I don't understand how somebody could look shifty at a funeral. Was he pickpocketing pensioners? Dipping his mitts into their dusty coats and foostering between the moist Kleenex tissues and unsucked Murray mints. Do you know what I mean? He was hardly pilfering pockets of fishermen friends in front of their family and friends. Like, yeah, slop. This whole thing... Sorry, let's call a spade a spade. Ending on the FBI's most wanted list after moving to New York is a complete disaster. That's like... Usually when Irish people move to New York, they simply grow some questionable facial hair and start pretending to be obsessed with like craft beer and human rights. Have you noticed that? What is with everybody who moves to New York all of a sudden? The human rights, the chief. It's like they've seen Lena Dunham once on the subway and then feel some sort of guilt. They become more reckless with the forward button than Hugh Edwards. Like, it's... Oh, fuck. No, but we could potentially do a full roast of people who move to New York. You know, like, people who move to New York and all they talk about is the fact that they live in New York. Yeah, but what do you do? Well, I live over in New York. Yes, but what do you do in New York? You know, I live there. That's the personality. That's what my identity now is, living in New York. I can't believe people just make ridiculous things their personality. It's really absurd. Did I tell you guys I'm sober? Nevertheless, the stages of Irish people who move to New York. Have you ever thought about it like this, right? I have a theory on it, okay? Do you want to hear it, Karen?
Yeah.
Day one, they get a picture on those steps in Times Square, Manhattan. You know, that sort of... And they've got the selfie. And they're thinking about joining like a local GAA team for expats. Maybe getting in touch with their dad's friend Bernard, who runs a trucking company or something. They were mates 30 years ago and might be able to get a dig out with some casual work. You know, the first Facebook album goes up of when they moved to New York, and it's them like drinking cocktails on a rooftop bar. Inexplicably, just a couple of yellow taxis, you know, for all of us back home who weren't familiar with the American metropolis and its sort of transport system. Maybe a street sign that says Broadway, and then finally a potential little suggestion of like a Yankees hat or something. Just a little bit of Yank paraphernalia to show that there's a willingness to assimilate. Day 53 on social media when someone moves to New York. The transformation is in full swing. They are now subletting a bedroom in Bushwick. They get work in a trendy bar. They keep telling all their friends back home that Robert Pattinson is a regular. Do you know what I mean? They begin to let their moustache, that's always the sign with guys, the moustache starts to grow out a little bit. The accent gets a little bit longer. You know, the sentences start beginning with, I mean, that's the real teller. I mean, yeah. And it ends in right. Yeah, it's, the food, really good, right? They untag themselves from the pictures of the rugby nights out back at home, and the Spotify playlist is updated to include the likes of LCD Sound System and The National. And they also realise that homophobia isn't exactly appropriate and friendly banter. That's when the transformation is, you know, then you reach day 178. They identify as polyamorous. They haven't been to Manhattan in months. The city is dead to them. They fly back to Ireland for Christmas and ask the bartender down the local in Ballymacarbery if he takes Amex. Do you know what I mean? Everywhere they go in Ireland, they roll their eyes with a jaded exasperation. And most sentences begin with, well, in New York. They come out with some stunningly oblivious statements like, well, in New York, we have these things called salads. Do you guys still get them over here? Oh, you do? Cool, right? Or last but not least, they have NYC and Dub in their Instagram bio. What is that? NYC and Dub. You're not you know, there's packages from fastaway couriers that move more frequently between the two places, Simon. So I don't sell us your porn collection, Simon. Do you know what I mean? That'd be like me having Castleknock and Blanchard St. Chiropodist in my bio just because I've been there twice this year. for the old talents ever since the... Finally, day 2063, they're wearing like a dungarees, come back to Ireland once a year, says that Irish people are backwards heathens, yet he sleeps in a Brooklyn basement with 5 other illegals and has to hide in the fridge every time the doorbell rings, you know, just in case his case manager from ICE decides to pay him a visit. He's trying to convince his elderly neighbour to marry him in exchange for $6,000. Keeps posting in WhatsApp groups about the amount you can get on tips. Here's a tip for you, mate. Move back home. Just because you saw Judd Apatow at a Yankees game, it can't be worth the suffering. Let's go.
Well, Mark, my weird cousin story is cousin of mine was walking back from the pub and it was getting fairly dark out, you know, not that that excuses the next part of the story, but another cousin of ours was stumbling towards said pub. I'm pretty sure he didn't get in, he was already locked. But he went into her and he goes, "Here, young one, gives a word, will you?" And she goes, "Sorry," and said his name. "It's me, your cousin." And he goes, "Oh, fuck." Proceeds to whip down his trousers and have a piss at the side of the road. I think she liked it. There was never anything said since. I don't think he's been able to look her in the eye, but yeah. Gas crack.
I love the way his response to being told that it was his cousin is still to take his penis out. Like, the fact that his penis has still disembarked from the boxer shorts and exited through the gates of his trousers into the cold air of the night after being confronted by his cousin is utterly insane to me. "Yeah, young one, give us a wear." As if you're just asking for the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, or the nearest taxi rank, or perhaps a place you could sit. The junior cert. This just absolutely bananas. I love it. And then just taking the piss. Yeah, of course. Okay, well, it's one or the other. I was either going to kiss you or piss on the side of the road. That's the game. On we go. Oh my God, okay. I am thoroughly enjoying this episode today, guys, so thank you all for your contributions. Now, we are here at the final section where things take a turn for the weird, potentially the worst. I hope you enjoy it. There's lots of other episodes to listen back to if you are new to the pod. And as I always say, if you've enjoyed today's episode, shoot me a message on Instagram. Let me know your thoughts at Megan Mark. If you've any ideas for future eps, yeah, let me know at Megan Mark. And the greatest gift you could give us if you're a fan of the show is to share it with a friend and to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I genuinely appreciate it. Thanks a mil.
At my wife's granddad's funeral, her cousin spent the entire reception in a very formal yacht club setting, openly scoring his missus passionately, not in a corner or a secluded area, literally at like near the table, like with like white linen cloth, very formal, just passionately scoring throughout the whole thing. Everyone there kind of made small talk, and it was incredibly bizarre, but very memorable. Strange behaviour. And as a little PS, no one had ever met her. No one had ever met her before, and nobody has seen her since.
We've gone from people acting shifty at funerals to people actually shifting at funerals. I'll never understand this. Do you want to hear my thesis on PDAs, Kieran?
Please.
Anybody that kisses their other half for longer than 3 seconds in public needs to be put under house arrest. It's too much. You've got to follow, just like if you drop a piece of ham in the kitchen, okay? And that's not a euphemism. You've got to follow the 3-second rule with public displays of affection. It's the 3-second rule. 1 second, okay? 1 second is the opportune amount, a length of time to be kissing your other half. It's a pleasant kiss on the lips or a kiss on the cheek, just a momentary expression of affection to the person that you're in love with. That's the sweet spot. That's where you want to be sitting. 2 seconds is a little bit more emphatic and usually appropriate off the back of a small lottery win, or if you've received a phone call about a job promotion. A 2-second lingering lip lock, okay? 3 seconds, lips to lips, lips on the mouth, lips to lips, is when you get engaged. That's like final tier, like that's like full blown, 3 seconds, that's enough. If you're using your tongue in public, you need to be placed in a prison cell for your life, because it's outrageous. Hand holding, absolutely fine. Lip locking, lock them up. That's my motto. I mean, any overt displays of affection for me, the way that I look at it is overt displays of affection in public are usually performed with the audience in mind rather than the participant. It goes back to pick us couples. This is genuinely my greatest theory yet. Pick us couples. They're doing it for the audience. They're doing it for the gallery. They're not doing it because they're so overwhelmed with sexual, attraction in the middle of a fucking supermarket. Move away, please. I need to get an aubergine and some lube. On we go.
I'm from a very large Irish family. My mum is one of 15 and my dad one of 8. Altogether, I have 87 first cousins. A few years ago, I was doing online dating and matched with a lovely guy. We chatted for a while and got on really well. One day, I had a light bulb moment and realised that we were actually first cousins, his dad and my mum being brother and sister. When I told him he was still keen to meet up, jokingly, I told him I'm sure it's illegal in several countries. I'm not sure what Freud would make of that one.
I like to think Freud would have been a fan of the Weekly Roast. Okay, let's get into it. Did I ever tell you about the time I lived in Hackney? Whenever I first moved to London, I lived in, Clapton. It is part of Hackney. But I lived with this Italian guy called Giovanni. And one time we were on the couch in the gaff and we were doing that thing whenever you just meet a new male and you discuss things that you're attracted to. And he was showing me these pictures of this girl and I was like, oh yeah, she's extremely beautiful. She reminds me of a woman I saw in a friend of mine, Simon's magazines growing up. And he was like, yeah, look at these. I was like, yeah, I would see them there. Thanks, Gio. They're lovely. Good stuff. And then I was like, how do you know her? Have you been with her before? He's like, no. And then he sort of winked boyishly, as he done some while. He goes, it is my cousin. I was like, Giovanni, that's a bit fucking weird, man, isn't it? And he was like, in Italy, it is a very popular saying, there is no love like the love for a cousin. I was like, I've heard of Mamma Mia. Do you know what I mean? I've heard of La Dolce Vita. I've heard of some Italian phrases. I've heard of La Dolce Vita as an Instagram caption when a basic girl posts a picture of Aperol. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think I've heard nothing about shagging your cousins. I never read that in the travel guides, Giovanni. Do you know what I mean? In Italy, there is no love like the love for a cousin. You can't just venerate perversion by claiming it's a proverb. Ragazzo mio. Do you know what I mean? You just, in Italy, Mark, listen to me. In Italy, there is a love like no other. It is the love for your cousin. Well, no, not. It's because it's familial. That's why it's like no other. Not because it supersedes standard sexual attraction, Giovanni. You can't just shoehorn it into polite conversation every single Don Mio day just because you want to have your Don Mio way with your relatives. You bloody pervert. But your cooking is insane, so we'll allow it. But pervert. Yeah, sorry, this woman. Okay, your cousin was up to no good. That's the reality. There were a few people who messaged about this where their cousin had... Somebody else messaged in saying that their cousin had super liked them on the dating app and then immediately messaged with going, I did that. I didn't realise. I wasn't looking properly. I didn't know it was you. It's like... So basically you're saying that your cousin's hot from far away. So if you were to see her on Grafton Street, she was coming out of somewhere else and you'd go, lovely rack, brilliant, fantastic breasts there, great stuff. On we go.
Hi Mark, absolutely love the podcast and congratulations on your 3-year sobriety. Just in relation to weird cousins, I have a cousin in particular who is 31 years of age and he would video call his mum to make sure he's getting the correct clothes. And I know one day he was out shopping for clothes and he video called his mum in a store, making sure that he was getting the correct size boxers. So I just couldn't believe it when I was told this. I was like, no, that can't be right. But yeah, it did happen. So yeah, that's one of the many stories.
Amazing. Grown babies. I love it. I mean, video calling your mum to do shopping with. I love my mother, right? And she'd be one of my closest confidants, best friends, parents, all the rest, right? I have a very close relationship with her. I will say this, going shopping with her as a teenager was nothing short of traumatic. There was nothing worse than, I think I have PTSD from end of July when the back to school signs would start going up in the shops. and you'd know that there's a fucking shrillness around the corner. And one morning you would wake up to the siren sound of a busy mother, which is rollerblades and old things getting shoved out from under the stairs. You know, that spring fucking clean. And you just go, oh, fuck. There goes the day. And it'll be like, Mark. And it's the tone. It's always the tone, by the way. Also, if you get referred to by your surname from your parent, then you're completely fucked. Mark Megan. Oh, good. I'm fucked. I'm done. And she come down. Now, I have a list of jobs for you. And you go, oh, the list. Longer than Schindler's. And it would be just do you wear these? Do you try these on? Would you have these? Mum, these are Stephanie's pink rollerblades. I'm never... Well, actually... No, but you know what I mean? So then going into... do the school shop. Like, I didn't like school growing up. I really wasn't. I hated it. I couldn't wait for school to be over. But going in to do the uniform shop was the worst feeling in the entire world. You'd be in Dunn's or somewhere. Here, try those on there. And you go, okay, I'm just going to try and find a fitting room. Nobody cares. Try them on here. Mum, I don't want to try them on here. They're trousers. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm embarrassed. Nobody cares. So nobody's looking. Well, I'm looking, Mum. I'm looking. People, I've got Thomas the Tank Engine underwear on, okay? I'm probably too old for that. So can you just let me, you know what I mean? This whole, like, getting changed in public. So the idea of getting my mum on a fucking video phone to be talking down the camera at my bloody boxer shorts. Like, would you be a boxer or a brief guy? Boxers.
Yeah.
What type? Like, in terms of fit? But like...
Normal?
Nobody cares. No, take them off, Karen. Nobody cares. Nobody's looking at you. Nobody, don't be embarrassed. Someone's so stupid. Take them off, Karen. On we go.
Hey Mark, so for my case, it's not odd cousins, it's odd uncles. And basically I was like at a family gaff party, drinking away, and then, you know, I was chatting to this fella. A while later I see this fella talking to my uncle who's not blood related. And basically, like, I think that my uncle was asking that fella, oh, like, do you like her or whatever. And then a few moments later, he was like, oh, every hole is a goal.
Ah.
Mind you, he's in his mid-40s. And this, like, I was like 19 at the time, which was like absolutely fucking disgusting. Also, side note, if you want to add, how common is it for people to fancy their cousins
Sorry?
below the age of 10?
Sorry?
Sorry, I meant that, like, when you are below the age of 10, how common, can we just, like, add that in? How common it is to, like, fancy your cousin. I don't know, I just thought it'd be an interesting side note.
Okay, like, what I will say is you completely won us over in the beginning, and then you absolutely what a curveball, the whole thing about the cousin at the end. I mean, it's like saying, hey guys, I've just won the Euro Millions and I'd like to donate all of the money to the local school so they can make the space fully accessible for every child in the town. Okay, lovely idea, yeah. By the way, does anybody know how to get your foot removed from the spokes of a wheelchair? Because I've just booted the boy in the car park for getting in the way of my Bentley. Do you know? It's exactly like that, isn't it, Kieran? It's the exact same thing. That's the genius. No, but okay, the uncle. There are times in Irish life when our national passive approach to confrontation really stands out as infuriating, and this is one of them. Somebody should grab that man by the scruff of his collar and say, excuse me, what did you just say there, Damien? That's your 19-year-old niece, you fucking creep. You are a disgusting, dirty bastard, and you are going to be ostracised from the family. I'm only having a joke, sir. I was only having a joke over a few fucking cans on a Sunday. You just can't. You absolutely can't. But yeah, and in terms of the fancying your cousin when you were 10, when they were also 10, I mean, like, I'm not some sort of moral arbiter, as we all know, in terms of anything, but I don't know. Like, how is it? You'd have to ask Giovanni. I'm sure he'd have some opinions on it. Or my mate Simon could show you a few visual examples in some of his material. On we go, the last one of the show. Let's go.
So yeah, my cousin had an affair. She was 23, 24, with a high-profile politician, middle-aged fella. So yeah, anyways, when we all got out, meal and murder. The aunties and uncles had all fallen out. My mother didn't go to mass for weeks. Absolute weeks. But every single gathering that we had and we still have, the innuendos,
She never lives it down. We roast her every single time. Everything. We'd be like, oh, God, will we have a vote in this? Won't we?
Oh my God, you're not the only ones roasting her by the sounds of things. I'd say she is a shin pain in the arse. Brilliant. Obviously, for legal reasons, I can't make any guesses as to who the high profile politician was that she had the affair with. But let's just say, was she Mary Horny? No? Was she a bit of a Bertie Ahern dog? I mean, damn. Bertie Ahern dog. No? Mary Lou McSlonald. No? Harry Laddams. Harry Laddams instead of Jerry Adams. Do you like that? Helen McEngee. Fine Gael sex? Fine Gael lover? No? Fine fall in love. There you go. Wholesome. Thank you so much for listening to the Weekly Roast. Guys, I've been inundated with questions about the secret project that is launching soon. Well, sorry, that's not, it's in production at the moment. I can't tell you much other than I just can't wait. I cannot wait to talk to you about it. It's the natural evolution. We're approaching 1 year of the Weekly Roast, which is insane to think that we're almost a year in. We are, well, we're not actually. Are we? End of January, yeah, not a million miles away. Episode 37 next week. Stay tuned. And from the bottom of my heart, genuinely, I want to say thank you so much to everybody who listens to this show, everybody who takes time to send me a message about it. It's quite a community of, you know, unconventional oddballs that we've developed here, and it's great to share it with you. So if you enjoy the show, send me a DM. If you have any suggestions on what you want to hear next, let me know. As I said before, I'll say it again. The greatest gift you can give me if you do enjoy the podcast is to share it with your mates and to subscribe and review and do all of that sort of stuff. Listen, have a good week. Again, thank you so much for all your messages last week. I'm just moved beyond belief by the support. You genuinely don't realise the difference that it makes. And I will just say this briefly, like, sobriety is always the best decision, by the way, for me. It's 100%. It's given me a new life, but it's not always easy. And sometimes just knowing that other people, like, you know, the amount of messages I got from people around their own challenges and struggles, not necessarily related to alcohol, but just in general, like, that connects us. That, how do you describe it? But the fact, it's going to sound really stupid, but knowing that everybody else has their own struggles and challenges in a really simple way just makes you remove your head from your arse and realise you're not the only person in the universe. So thank you so much. I don't know if any of that made sense, but we're all connected through our own struggles. And I do really appreciate all your support. Now, on we go. Speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.